And welcome everybody, it's Dan, hope you're well today. So let's talk about property sourcing, shall we? And in particular, let's talk about property sourcing this year and how to be successful, or at least as successful as possible this year. So obviously we're in times of turmoil, things are all over the place, aren't they? Let's face it. And there's a lot of uncertainty out there in the marketplace. Interest rates going up, or interest rates going down? Are they staying the same? Are mortgage rates going up? Are mortgage rates going down? What's happening to people who can't afford variable mortgage? What about all these people who are coming off fixed rates and moving on to variable rates as well? So first of all, how can you take advantage of that? What's going on? How can you help yourself? I guess more importantly as well is how can you also help other people going through some hardship right now. Now, one of the things that you're probably aware of is that you can't do a sale and rent back. So you can't buy a house, for example, and then rent it back to the same person. They were made illegal a long time ago. But what you can do is you can buy their house and then you can rent them a different house. So you're not renting back the same house, you can just put them back into a different house in your portfolio. That might work as well. Or the other reason why people do property sourcing and why people sell their house below market value is that they've either been made redundant, they've been left a house, they're in credit card debt or mortgage debt or loan debt, and they've got people banging on the door, they're about to be made bankrupt, and actually selling the house that might be worth 100, you're buying it for 80, they might have a mortgage of 60. You buying it for 80 means I can pay the mortgage off and the 20 grand's worth of debt. You're actually saving somebody from going bankrupt. So there's lots of good reasons as to why you should be property sourcing, and I should put a caveat in there. There's also lots of bad reasons why you shouldn't be property sourcing. I remember being sat at an event once, and the guy on stage was bragging how he would get to the day before exchange of contracts and then he would change the deal and knock 10 grand off. And I thought, what a wanker. I mean, who does that kind of thing? And I whispered over to my mate Dave, because we've all got a mate called Dave, haven't we? And if you haven't, what's wrong with you? You only have a 9 feet from a Dave. Anyway, I whispered over to my mate Dave and I said, that's why we don't sell to investors. And the guy was like, sorry, what was that? And I thought, oh no, it's put me on the spot now. So do I just make something up or do I tell him what a twat he is? So obviously we told him what a twat he was, and then he was like, "Oh well, we don't always do that, and I give a lot of money to charity." And I was like, "Yeah." And I said to him, "That's why we don't rent to investors, people like you. What you're doing is wrong." Anyway, you don't have to be like that. There's a nice way of doing this, and it should be a win-win situation. It shouldn't be you just coming in and taking someone's house and taking advantage of people, especially vulnerable or elderly. You should be there to get a win-win situation. If you cannot get a win-win situation, you've failed, in my opinion, as a property sourcer. That is not what this business is about. So first up, the first thing that you can do to be a successful property sourcer, I spelt it wrong, you got to be compliant. Like, going back a couple of years, there were a number of people who are big on the property sourcing world saying, oh no, you don't need to be compliant. No, you just set up. And that's like, there's nothing further than the truth, right? You must be compliant. What you're doing is a compliant related activity. So you have to be compliant. And if you're not compliant, the boys in blue are going to come and stick you in a slammer. That means you're going to get in trouble, basically. And there are large fines potentially. So you've got to be making sure that you are compliant. You absolutely have to be compliant. Now, I just need to double check on something. I just want to go over to StreamYard to make sure that's working properly, and it is, I believe. Yes, it is. So I just wanted to check that. So you absolutely have to be compliant. Now, we've got a link down below. Compliance isn't cheap, by the way. It's like £1,000 minimum. But if you check the link out down below, we've got a thing. It costs like £99 a month, I think it is, through sourcing investments through one of our clients, one of our digital marketing agency clients, and it just happens to be a good complement to what we already do with the property sourcing. But you are acting as an estate agent, and so you have to go through money laundering checks with clients. This is just what you have to do. You have to be registered with all the things that you need to be registered with. And let me just talk about sharing compliance. I've spoken with Tina Walsh at length about this particular thing, and Tina's very good at doing what she does with her compliance as well. And you cannot share your compliance, which basically means that if you're not compliant but your mate is compliant, you can't do a deal through him and share his compliance. You have to be compliant as well. Now, can you do it? Will you get away with it? Hell, yeah, of course you can do it. Will you get away with it? Maybe. You can drive 150 mile an hour on the M62 in a Porsche 911 with the hood down. Not that I've ever done that. I wouldn't do such a thing. But you can do. Would you get away with it? I may have done. Would I do it again? Would you go to prison for that? I mean, obviously, I didn't do that. Obviously. But could you be sourcing property and not be compliant? Hell yeah. But it's illegal. Don't do it. Get yourself compliant. I know it's a pain in the butt, but if you want to be successful at doing this, there's no point in dipping your toe in the water when you're going scuba diving and going, oh, that's rubbish, that. I can't do it. Well, you've only dipped your toe in the water. Yeah, it's not for me. If you're going to be a property sourcer, go and be a property sourcer. Do it properly, right from the start. Commit to the process. If you don't commit to being a property sourcer, you ain't sourcing anything, right? You've got to commit to this, and part of that commitment is by being legally compliant. So please go be legally compliant. Next up then, you've got to go out and find some deals. Now, we're going to talk about finding investors as well, and the question always comes to, do I find a deal first and then try and sell it, or do I find an investor and try and find a property? Now, I will give you this one for free. Go find an investor. Go do that bit first. And we'll talk about where to find investors shortly. But go find an investor. Once you've got an investor, then you just have to find the deal that matches what the investor wants. That's a much easier sale than finding lots of deals and then desperately searching out on internet forums, on Facebook, oh, I've got this deal, does anybody want it? And the other funny thing here as well is that when you get a deal, or you've got someone else who's got a deal and you're trying to sell that deal on, there's you and another 18 people in that chain of people trying to sell that deal. And the finder's fee's £1,500. Oh yeah, I'll take that. You make £1,500, and I'll charge a finder's fee of £2,000, and I'll make £500. Yeah. And then the next person sells it for £2,500. They make a £500, and the original person who actually sourced the deal is only making £1,500. But there's 5 or 6 people all down this chain of people who found this deal. It's ridiculous. I've seen it happen so many times. Go find your own deal, goddammit. Go source them. And it's like, well, where do you source them? So, like, really obvious stuff. And we're not going to go into all of it for obvious reasons. 1 is time constraints. 2 is buy the damn product. It's £27. You want to find out how to find lots of places on where to find deals? Go spend £27 and find out. But one of the biggest ways which we found deals was always through leaflet drops. Always. Leaflet dropping has worked incredibly well for us and will still work, especially right now in the marketplace. People are struggling right now, and people cannot make their bills pay. Now, are those people going to sell up? Maybe. You don't know. And you've got to find, or you've got to speak to enough people. When we talk to coaching clients and we say, go and drop some leaflets, and they go, okay, yeah, I'll do that. And then they go and drop some leaflets, and they come back next week and go, how many leaflets did you drop? And we go, well, I dropped 80 yesterday, and I'm going to drop 20 today. And I'm like, dude, what are you doing? You ain't going to close anything dropping 100 leaflets this week, or 80 leaflets a day. You should be dropping 800 to 1,000 leaflets every single day. And if you've not got time to do that, pay for someone else to go drop those leaflets. Or listen to one of our earlier podcasts where we talk about how you can drop 50,000 leaflets a month, I think it was. You can literally drop 50,000 leaflets a month and it not cost you a penny. It's one of the early podcasts, like podcast number 3. Go check it out on our on my website /podcast, and then you'll find it. So daniellatour.co.uk/podcast. How to drop 50,000 leaflets a month is the name of the podcast, if memory serves. So dropping leaflets is such a good way of doing it. And you know what? Another really good way of finding deals is online. Like, people, I see these people, they're moaning in Facebook forums, oh, selling deals that you've found online, oh, it should be illegal. Don't know what that voice is about, by the way, but this is the kind of thing that they say. That voice is one of those moany, whiny people. Oh, oh, you shouldn't be finding deals. Look, if I've got a doctor and he's looking for a deal, but he hasn't got time, right? Because he's time poor, but he's cash rich. And I go out and find a HMO, not in an Article 4 area, but we can stick 6 or 7 people in, might need a bit of work doing to it, maybe 10, 15 grand's worth of work. Should we go out and offer the doctor that deal? Hell yes. Have we just sourced that doctor a deal that's going to convert, £1,500, £2,000 a month profit? Absolutely. Why would we not get paid for doing that? Could that doctor go out and find it on their own? Of course not. They don't even know what they're looking for. It takes people with experience and knowledge to go out and spend the time to find these deals. So can you find these deals online? Absolutely, yes you can. So then the next bit is finding investors. Now, as I've said before, should you find the investor first or should you find the deal first? I always like to find investors, and I like to source to order. It's just what we prefer to do. It's much easier to go out and find someone who's got 30 grand, 40 grand, 50 grand. They're sat there, they don't know what to do with it. It's like, well, okay, I want to get into property, I want to buy more property, but for whatever reason, they haven't got the time to go out and actually do that stuff. For whatever reason, it could be the doctor, they're just so busy healing the sick, working on £14.50 an hour if we're a junior doctor. They should get more money, really, let's face it. So, look, it doesn't matter who they are, what they do, what the reason is. There are plenty of people out there that are looking for deals right now. Now, the deal doesn't have to be a below market value deal. We don't go out and sell below market value deals anymore. We sell cash flow deals, cash flow value deals, which means they have to put money in. But like, we had a deal and we did a video on this and we got a lot of abuse for it, actually. And it was 30 grand down and I think it was 1,500 quid a month for life. And people are like, that's ridiculous, you can't do that. And you could. It was 100 grand, so it's £20,000 down, needed 15 grand's worth or 10 grand's worth of work doing to it to do the HMO conversion. It was literally going to pull out 1,500 quid a month, I think it was, for life, right? Like, that's after mortgage payments and after utility bill payments, although utility bills, admittedly, weren't as high as they were today. So maybe you might only make, I don't know, £1,000 on that deal. But you can find those deals. And we found a deal for a guy, exactly what he was looking for. He had the 30 grand sat there and we found him that deal and we did the deal and he lives happily ever after, making that money for the rest of his life until he's either paying the mortgage off or he has to refinance it or whatever happens in that deal. But are those investors out there, are people out there right now that have been made redundant and got 100 grand in the bank and now they're panicking because they don't want to spend that 100 grand, but they have to find a way of making a living? And would making £1,000 a month on maybe 30 grand down, well, they can buy 3 of those deals. Suddenly now they're making 3 grand a month. Is that going to change their lives? Absolutely. Do those people exist? Of course they do. Is it difficult finding them? Of course it bloody well is. They're not just hanging around on street corners with 100 grand waiting to give it to you. You've got to go out and you've got to network and you've got to go find these people. But before you go and network and find these people, you have to be recognizant. You have to recognize that these people exist. And when you recognize that these people exist, you've got to go out and press the flesh. Get your business cards and go meet people and identify them first of all and then qualify them afterwards. You know, what sort of deal are you looking for? When? What sort of timescale? Have you got the funds available? Have you got proof of funds? All this stuff's really, really important. But can you find the investors? Of course you can. They're all out there. Can you find the deals? Of course you can. They're all out there. And then the final part here on how to be a successful property sourcer, and one day I'm going to learn how to spell successful. But the final part here is you've got to market like crazy. And I speak to people and I go, when did you go live? And I go, well, I did a live last week, Dan. And I'm like, just for one? Yeah. Like, how many people do you think you're going to attract by going live once a week? Like, you know, and by the way, you know, sometimes I go live 7 times a week. Sometimes it's 3 times a week. Sometimes it's 10 times a week. But you know what I need to be doing? Even me, who goes live quite often, I've got a lot to say in case you haven't noticed it. You've got to be going live more than once a week. 2 times a week, 3 times a week, 4 times a week, 7 times a week, 10 times a week. You can't go live enough. Just live on live stream. Let people follow your lives. Get in front of as many people as you can. This is marketing. And when you're live streaming, then you've got to be posting images, and you've got to be posting videos, and then you've got to have call to actions, which lead people back to the website, and then you've got to be adding value on your website. All this is marketing. And you know, when people go, oh, as a new business, how much money should I be spending on marketing? It's like, well, all of it. What the hell are you doing? You haven't got any goddamn customers. And the money that you have got from the few customers that you have, you need to be putting that back into investing into your marketing. And does marketing happen instantly? Not necessarily. Sometimes it takes a month or 2 months or 2 years or 10 years. I was having a conversation with somebody earlier on, a coaching client, about Gary Vee, because I was watching him at the New York Knicks just a few nights ago, sat next to, what's he called? Very famous. So famous I can't remember. Not Snoop Doggy Dogg. What's he called? Oh, God, I can't. I'm going to have to find out now. Famous New York Knicks fans. Let me find who it is. Spike Lee. Why couldn't I not remember Spike Lee? So Spike Lee, Chris Rock, Howard Stern, Alicia Keys, Jerry Seinfeld. He was there. 50 Cent, Woody Allen, Katie Holmes. All those people were there. Spike Lee was sat next to Gary Vaynerchuk, right? And you look at Gary Vaynerchuk's journey for the last 10 years. He's gone from a £3 million wine library over the last 10, 15 years to a £60 million wine library, which was his dad's, to probably one of the number one social media, digital media marketing agencies on the planet, right? And he's done that. How has Gary Vee done that? Video. He's done it all through video. And there he was, watching the beloved, or not so beloved if you're a New York Knicks fan, they've had their struggles, sat courtside next to Spike Lee during the playoffs. Absolute dream of mine is that. And he's done it all through video. And he goes live hell of a lot more than I do. He goes live more in a day than I do all month. Not live, but he's got more social media content. And you guys, you need to be doing the same. Like, how are you supposed to rise above the noise? How are you supposed to stand out in any way when everybody else is going live and you go, no, you know what? I'm not going to go live. That'll do it. It's crazy. It's bonkers when you think about it. And yet this is what people are doing. They are not going live. They're not posting on social media. You have to create like a wave of excitement or of attention. Like, you're going to have to find a way of absolutely ramping that up, because that's the only thing that you've got that's going to stand you out from everybody else. And you've got to find a way of doing that. All right, hope that was useful. We'll catch up with you on the next live, probably tomorrow. Have yourselves a wicked day, and we'll speak to you soon. Take care.